Hello everyone, welcome to Scarecrow Miniature Painting. This is part 5 of our Warlocks. If you watched the last part, um, which I highly recommend watching all 4 parts up to this before watching this way you get a more understanding of the process that goes along with painting miniatures, especially as detailed as we're going to be painting them now. You'll know that we left off with, on this figure, just the sword, and I decided we are going to add some detail onto the bracers. So we're going to begin with the bracers themselves first, and we're going to make sure that we can get that detail on there properly. So we're just going to take a tiny bit, and we're going to take it from the top down. We're going to make a straight line, as straight as we can. And now that I'm looking at it, I don't even know if I have a fine enough brush to do that. So let me go over here, take the blue, and try to cover that up. This way we can get that fixed, and then I will try again. Like I said in previous episodes and previous videos, with miniature painting, you're going to make a mistake or two. That is fine, because you can always go back and cover it up. Let me think here. You know what? We will actually leave the bracers as they are, mainly because it does give a little bit more of, yes, it gives a minimalistic tone to it, but it also makes it stand out a little bit more. And we're going to start with our gunmetal, and then the only other thing we have left on him is the detail on the belt, which we have decided we are going to do in bronze. And I'm going to check my paints I do have, see if we have a thick enough, see if we have a dark enough, I should say, brown besides the leather brown. I don't know if we do, because looking at the belt, it's got some hints of red in it. So what we might do is we might actually do a mixture of the pure red and the brown. I'm going to move my paint cup over here. This way you guys can see me the entire time. We're just going to mix that in there so it thins down the paint. So what you just watched me do is I took water and I put it in our gunmetal silver. We're just going to paint over the sword. If you've seen any of my previous videos, I typically try to paint the hilt and the pommel a different color. However, with this one, silver feels right. He's a warlock. He could be a, for those that play D&D, he could be an undying warlock, or an undead one. I believe it's undying, and he could just have a vendetta against the undead, similar to a paladin. We're just gonna touch that up real quick. Get underneath it. If you've seen my prior videos, you'll see me using this handle. I personally love these handles. These are Citadel handles. Now, if you don't have money for a Citadel handle, you can always use sticky putty, or sticky tack, whatever you want to call it, and a medicine bottle that you had lying around. I do not recommend keeping those around children if you have little ones, like myself, just because if they still have medicine, obviously some things can happen. But if they're empty, it's perfectly fine. So we're just going to try and hit these details as close as we can. And we're even going to go a step further. We're going to paint the top of that hand one more time. And that is what we have. We have a nice silver sword. Now if you've seen my previous videos, you've seen me time and time again dip my paintbrush in my mouth. The only reason why I do that is to clean it. And yeah, after mixing some of that red in, I am liking how that looks. So let's get to painting this now. Hopefully this turns out how I want it. It is starting to form out into more of a wash, which I always have a love-hate relationship with, solely because of the fact that when you paint with a wash, one, it takes more of your time away from the actual figure itself, and two, it likes to just sit in the recesses. It does not like to actually go onto the paint, or where you want the paint, I should say. So we're going to try to suck up some of that, move it around. We are going to touch up the silver again with that bit, but that is what we got. It looks similar to the brown we had, but it is a little darker. And I'm going to take a clean paper towel. I'm just going to, where it's more splotched, I'm just going to take it and try to clean up those recesses. As close as I can. So with that being said, I'm going to try taking more of the actual red paint, and I'm going to mix that in to try and make it a little bit thicker, and that actually worked. So, not a base coat 2 for that. Oh yeah, there we go. Now that pooling could have been because of the fact that I did use a red, and red tends to have that pooling effect. But it also could have just been due to me having more of a wetter, a more wet, a more thinned down paint. My apologies for getting tongue tied there. But that's what we got. It's a little bit more red than I would have liked, but it does look nice. Once again, splotch that. Now, we're going to move on to our bronze. Now, there's not a lot of bronze to do on this one. And this is honestly the only one we're actually going to use bronze on. Only because of the fact that the other figure does not have a lot of bronze. However, it does have some red. It does have some silver that we're going to touch up on. Then we're going to take our handy dandy napkin here. Dip it in there. A couple of drops. I'm going to clean off this brush. Put that down. Now, bronze and golds, they're already a pretty thin pigmentation. So you don't really have to do much with them to thin them down. The big issue with them is that they tend to show up more as the undercoat color, so they do take a little bit more time to paint to get that pigmentation to stick. But there we have it. He is nice and done. You can see all of the work that we did over the past 4 episodes and this one, so 5 episodes in total. And now we can move on to the other Warlock. Now, we're going to come back to the one we just finished once we start the highlighting process. But as I said in episode 4, we are going to start focusing primarily on this one. Now, I want to start with these very thin details. Now, this is what's going to take a while with this figure. So, this figure has some very nice artistic designs built into his cloak. Now, what we're doing is we are hitting these designs with our red to make them stand out on the figure itself. As you can see on that. Now on video it looks splotchy just because there is one line a little bit thicker, but we can easily touch that up with black. It does have one right there, one right there, and some on his back. And I'm just looking over the entire figure, making sure we're not missing any details as well while I am painting it. Because we don't want to miss any of these small, intricate details. Because that's what's really going to make this specific figure come to life. We want it to actually feel like he's been a necromancer for years. Now I do post all of the pictures of our final projects or products on my Facebook. So if you would like to see any final product, we do post them there. I have also been thinking about expanding into a Discord as well, but I do want at least 100 members. That would be too much before we start to delve that deeply into it. We'll fix that with black. I'll paint over that real quick. Ooh. Maybe I will not, because it kind of... Bear with me. Okay. So for some reason, our black decided it wanted to become a wash instead. So let me add some more black to that. Where did my matte black go? There we go. So I'm going to mix that water in with that black. And take a little bit of that. I'm just going to hit right there up. And touch up through there. This is another process that can be done throughout the entire process when it comes to... Yep, I knew I had some paint on me. Always make sure you clean your brushes thoroughly. You will taste it. So I'm just going to make sure that this is dried first. And as fine-tipped as possible. I'm going to pick up some of that pigment. I'm going to start with that pant leg. There we go. That is what I wanted to see. Okay. And then once we're done here, we are going to touch up his skin tone. And we are going to also do specifically his metal bits. Now he does have some metal showing on him throughout. And we're going to just lightly touch that up. And what I'm doing right now is I'm still working on that detailing of his. I want it to be vibrant because once we do that wash near the end, the detail won't be there as vibrant as it once was. And then once we are done with this, we'll move on to that skin tone. As I mentioned before, the zombie turned out exactly how I wanted him to turn out, which I am thrilled about. Mainly because I was honestly skeptical with how it would turn out. Especially with it being on top of what I call translucent plastic, which is that plastic that you saw in episode 1 that we painted. And you see me going back and forth because I'm debating on if I can make out specific patterns on its arm. If you watched the channel before, you know it's a common love-hate relationship with kids and how they tend to not give the best mold line figures when we want to produce excellent quality work. So what we're going to do with this arm is we are just going to leave it be. It's going to have some silver tinge to it anyway, because it does have some silver spots on the bracer itself. Oh no. What we're going to do is we are actually going to turn those bracers red. We're going to keep with the motif, because what we're going to end up doing here is, well, while we have our red, is we are going to paint his belt that he has. Now, I was debating on doing this in a purple or a blue, but while we have the red on the palette, let's just paint it red and move from there and see how that looks. As I've said in prior videos, we are going to be inactive on, or as I said in the last video, I should say, we will be inactive on this weekend due to the holiday coming up. For those of you that do not live in the United States, I apologize. Coming from a military family, Memorial Day is important to us. And it gives me time to see my family that I don't get to see often. That being my grandmother. So we are going to go down and visit her this weekend. And then once we come back, it will be business as usual when it comes to uploading schedules and keeping you all up to date on current projects and updates with how our business, when it comes to Etsy, is producing. that's what we have. Now, on video, and I'm trying to get it to focus somewhat. It does look splotchy. It does look like a bit of a mess, but in person, and you'll see it once we do our, you'll see it a little bit better once we do our pictures for our Facebook. It is looking exactly how we had planned. Down to every single detail. With that being said, we have just a little bit more red we can touch up on. I'm going to try to do it here. So he has the specific, almost a pauldron of its own making on his leg. And we're just going to take our paints and we're going to go over that and hope that the recesses stick. We're trying to avoid getting any on the zombie. We're not trying to touch him up that much. But that spot right there is what we just painted. Now, I personally am in love with how he's turned out. While we have the black, I am going to start touching up some spots, such as beard. I want to give him an actual beard line. So we grabbed a little too much of the wash down. There we go. So that's what we got for him. And I'm looking over it, seeing if anything else needs touched up before we move on to the silver. There's a little bit of right there we can touch up on. And now we move on to the silver. Now, I should have an actual silver in here, and I do not. So we are going to just use the gunmetal that we had before. I wanted to do a brighter silver, but that's fine. We will make do with what we have. We are going to start by touching up these little triangles at the bottom there. And we are even going to do his pauldron up here in silver and the little skeleton holding his belt up in silver. Okay, I'm just looking them over, seeing what else we can do. And we are going to actually call it time right now. And we will come back for part 5, or part 6, actually, where we finish up the rest of the silver. And then there's a spot on his shirt. There's a spot for a shirt that we can do that I'm looking at. That I can do it in white. And then another spot that we can add some red access highlights to that I think would be amazing. So, with that being said, thank you for watching the episode. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to reiterate, we do have an Etsy store that will be in the description, as well as a Facebook. Please check both those out. It means a lot to us as content creators and as part of our job here. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.